School in Middletown,
Okay.
not the one in Massachusetts. I'd like to call the regularly scheduled Board of Finance meeting for Monday, November 16th, 2015 to order. First order of business is elections and appointments. 1.1 would be the election of a chairman pro temp, and I'd like to nominate Lou Federici as chairman pro temp for the purposes of the elections.
Second?
Second. Any other nominations? Is there a motion to close the nominations?
Move we close the nominations.
Second? Second. All in favor of Lou Federici as chairman pro tem?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, Lou.
Thanks. Okay. I'd like to open the nominations for election of chairman in accordance with Section 6-1 of the Guilford Town Charter.
I nominate Matt Hoey as chairman. He's been our chairman for the last 24, 25 years. and
22.
Don't add anymore.
Wait
Wait a second, that
job.
might make me eligible for Social Security.
Join the group.
20, let's call it 22 and be happy.
Yeah, exactly.
22, and he's demonstrated exemplary leadership. I'm proud to nominate him for our chairman again.
Thank you, Ken.
Second.
Any discussion? Further nominations?
Move that nominations be closed.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor of closing the nominations?
Aye.
Okay. All in favor of Matt Hoey as chairman of the Guilford Board of Finance? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Congratulations, Matt.
Thank you. Thank you to the board for once allowing me to serve with you and to work with you, more importantly. It's the most important job we have together, is to work towards a common good for this community. So thank you very much. The next order of business is the election of vice chair in accordance with Section 6.10 of the Guilford Town Charter. I'd like to nominate Ken Gammerman. There's an old saying, uneasy lies the head who wears the crown. Ken has always reminded me of that when I miss a meeting, that I may not get the job back. And Ken has done a terrific job of filling in during those
Always been
periods.
unable to arrange a coup.
So I nominate Ken Gammerman. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second. Are there any other?
I'd like to make a nomination as well.
Certainly.
I'd like to nominate someone that's an attorney in town that knows the town as well as anyone, and it's Jeff Beatty. Plus, it adds balance to the board.
Okay.
We don't want all Democrats, do we?
Who knows? I will second that for purposes of discussion. I'm going to take them in order as they were presented. All in favor of Ken Gammerman for vice chair? Aye. All in favor of Jeff Beatty for vice chair?
Aye.
Ken Gammerman carries it. Jeff, I do think you owe an explanation for at least this man's vote. Ken has served on this board for 23 years, and he's been vice chair for, I believe, 10 or 14 of those years. And he's done, as I said, an admirable job. And that would be the reason that I continue to vote for him.
I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, 1.4, appointment of clerk to the Board of Finance in accordance with Section 6.1 of Guilford Town Charter. And I would like to nominate Tracy Brinkman, if she will agree to do it again. And I already know the answer to that. And is there a second?
Second.
Are there any other nominations?
Move the nomination be closed.
Is there a second? On closing the nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. On the motion itself, the primary motion, Tracy Brinkman as clerk for the town Board of Finance. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, abstains. Congratulations, Tracy. Before we proceed, Ken, I'd like to officially welcome you. I'm remiss that I did not do that at the special meeting last week. Congratulations on your election to the board. And I trust you'll enjoy your service to the community and hopefully the camaraderie that has been developed on this board over the years. I would also like to thank Jonathan Trotta for his service and his contributions over the past 4 years. Jonathan became a very valuable member of this board, and we appreciate his work and his contributions. So,
Excellent.
Agreed.
Item 2, public forum. Is there anyone wishing to address the board in public forum? Hearing-
Am I able to do that or not really?
No, not really in public forum. New business, old business, or, but I couldn't,
Business as it pertains to, or if we have discussion, then that's fine, so
okay,
that's fine.
all right. Two pieces on the agenda, new business, old business, if there's something you'd like to bring up, or, okay. Item 3, approve the minutes, regular meeting minutes of October 19, 2015. The order, that would have normally been in order, but the packets included a repeat of the September 21st
September meeting,
meeting minutes. So is there a motion to table until such time as we have an opportunity to review those? I know Tracy had sent them out electronically to us about a week after the last meeting. Ken, you would not have had the benefit of that. So Tracy will send those out tomorrow. And is there a motion to table until the December meeting?
Move to table.
A second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Recusals? I think you have to recuse because you are not at the meeting yet. All right. Item 4, correspondence, standing building committee minutes. And there were none, as Tracy explained to us prior to the meeting, owing to, I believe, some vacations between the chair and the clerk. We expect to get those within the near term. Mike, is there anything that you'd like to bring to our attention or that you are aware of?
I'll just be really, really brief on this. I know that we're probably a month behind. I know we didn't get them last month. I did get the October minutes. I went to the November meeting briefly. I brought up a few questions that I had. Those will be reflected in the November meeting minutes. So I'm assuming that Tracy, when she gets them, she'll forward them to the board. If not, I usually get them, and I could always forward them if need be. I know that there was some discussion under old business and new business there about an RFQ for on-call A&E firms. So they're going to be back out for RFQs for architecture and engineering firms, and there was a discussion that was going to be on change order approval process. So I look forward to seeing the minutes. I was not able to stay for those conversations, but that is all.
All right, well, short of minutes, we'll, apparently at next month's meeting, we'll probably have 2 sets of minutes to review. Item 4.2, pension committee minutes. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Lou?
Item 5.5 talks about the new firefighter contract and cost. There's a lot in one 3-line sentence here. And I just kind of need a little bit of a better understanding if it discusses that Mitch Goldblatt clarified the cost of the new 2.25% multiplier, formerly 2%. And then it goes on, it talks about a series of changes back and forth, and then it says, is valued at approximately $33,000 a year. I'm trying to get a handle on that. That whole paragraph is just confusing.
I had similar questions. The way I read that was the additional, the multiplier is now 2.25 as opposed to 2%. But on the other hand, the employee contribution went from 4% to 6%. So the net effect to the town on an annualized basis, or at least this year, is $33,000. Is that correct, Joe? That's correct. Okay. You're right, it's a lot to pack into
And
that.
it changes a 2-year, obviously this was a long negotiation. This is, they probably summarized months' worth of discussions in one sentence here, which maybe is artful. I don't know, but it was, so just bear with me just a little bit further then. So the town per retired firefighter, on average, is going to be looking at $33,000? Is that what that means?
No, that's the total unit,
Oh, okay.
not firefighter,
Right.
total unit.
The additional contribution.
Yeah,
The additional
Or just the
contribution is based on
firefighters.
this change in that
Right.
multiplier.
right.
Based on those 2 changes, really. Because
It's the
it's the
net effect.
multiplier,
And but the employees are kicking in an additional 2%.
Correct.
They kick in an additional.
The net effect, and that was to get the new employees on the 401.
Okay,
That was the trade-off.
I see.
Okay.
Okay, that even makes more sense then. Great. Yes?
I just wanted to remind you that last month, there was a question about this exact number in the minutes.
Okay.
And this actually corrects what was stated last month that was incorrect in the pension minutes.
Okay.
So this is the accurate version.
Okay,
Okay.
great, thank you. Thank you, Sheila. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have one
Peter.
point I'd like to make. It's
Certainly.
a very minor point, but where you basically have the different investments, basically, something was transposed. Schaefer Cullen is large cap value, and Montag Caldwell is large cap growth. You have it just the opposite.
I'll note that for the minutes.
Thank you, Peter.
We'll be discussing the pension in a little more detail later on, will we not? Because I have some questions on the managers.
No, that would be, this would be the appropriate time.
Well, if you'll note in item 3, the last paragraph, that the committee would like to see a cumulative report showing manager percentages, I guess they mean manager performances, compared to managers in the same range. Reason I assume this would be discussed later is, are we going to be looking at that in terms of the spreadsheet? I was just wondering whether we make changes in the compositions of those funds and the nature of those funds on an ongoing basis.
Yes, what that actually means is they would like to see the performance versus the benchmark.
In that
Right.
category?
Yes, and so that's what we're tracking now. We're tracking the benchmark for each category against the actual manager's performance. And they do make changes to the allocation of the portfolio, but not necessarily the benchmark. That pretty much stays consistent. Does that answer your question?
Now, will you be modifying this document to show that, or is it going to be a separate document that,
There's a lot of information, even that document, it's just difficult to read.
busy,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to work on figuring out how to incorporate the benchmark into a report that's readable.
Right.
I was going to do that this time. It's on another report that they get.
Okay.
But I know that you would probably like to see that too, so I
Right.
need another summary report, basically with the data again a second time.
okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Sheila, I did have one, and Sheila and/or Joe. 5.3 Investment Policy Statement Review. In the third paragraph in 5.3, Mitch Goldblatt noted that Ken Friedman will be reviewing the actuarial evaluation with the committee at the November meeting. When does that take place?
It's this Wednesday.
This Wednesday, right? Yeah, okay. Do we have any sneak peek at what they,
I haven't gotten that.
I asked for a sneak peek today, and I didn't get an answer yet. I may get it tomorrow, probably less than 24 hours before.
okay, and I'll ask this again for probably the, eighth time? I apologize for not having remembered. Will we also be looking at the salary,
Yes.
salary factor? Will that be part of this?
Yes.
Okay,
It will be the OPEB, which is
Yep.
the post-employment benefits, the valuation, and the salary experience study.
okay. And that meeting is open to anybody who wants to.
We've been invited.
We've been invited,
Yes.
right?
You
Wednesday,
have been invited.
Yep,
Wednesday morning.
Wednesday at 8 a.m.
8 a.m., good. Anything else on the pension committee?
No.
Okay. Item 5, review and accept the report of expenditures of the Board of Education for October 2015. Good evening, Linda. And our guest reviewer, Dr. Myers. Good evening.
First of all, I know I could speak on behalf of the entire Board of Education in congratulating Mike, Matt, and Mr. McKenzie, Ken, for their recent election.
Thank you.
And we look forward to continuing the collaborative arrangement that we've always enjoyed between the Board of Finance and the Board of Ed. Along those lines, on December 21st, we will hold our first joint meeting between the Board of Education and the Board of Education Operations Committee and the Board of Finance, and I look forward to that. I also look forward to having one or more members of this board join us this summer when we begin our union negotiations with the teachers union. We've always found that to be a very valuable collaborative plan.
Thank you. We will take advantage of that offer.
Okay, thanks to Linda, we have a report that shows our expenditures for the month of October was $6,496,235.36. That represents 28.14% of our budget as compared to 28.27 in the prior year, so it's tracking nicely. We also had some revenue, which was $2,771.44 from Medicaid and $15,700 for pre-K tuition, plus a donation from the Coca-Cola Company for $216.
Do we still have Coca-Cola products in the district somewhere?
Just water.
No,
Just
we
wa, oh,
did-
that's right, their water, they make,
They make
Dasani
icing.
water. just-
No, actually, there are soda machines in the teachers' lounges.
Not for the children.
Not for the
No.
children, it's in the teachers' lounges.
but they're
Just make active use of that, I guess.
One for 'em.
Okay, looking at the warrants, you will notice that on page 1, there are 3 warrants from A&D Equipment Sales for 595 New England Road. For those of you that are not familiar, that is the new name, or the temporary name, of what was the science wing at Guilford High School. And throughout all of these warrants, there is a total of $71,842 scattered in there for various vendors, which pertain to our agreement with the town that we would turn over the science wing with utilities. And these bills are for the utilities for digging, blasting, connecting, and all sorts of other activities. So that is almost finished. Yes, sir.
And these were expenses that were anticipated from the very outset, and there's no surprises here. I mean, you needed to hook up utilities, you needed to seal the building where it had been disconnected from
We
the other building.
didn't have a specific budget amount, because we didn't know what it would be till we got into it, but it's not a surprise.
The concept of what these charges represent has been part of the plan from the outset.
Correct.
Yes.
And it's important to note that they are outside of the bonding for the high school because it was, it's not an allowed expense in the eyes of the state because it is not part of the high school.
Correct.
These were budgeted for under our site improvement
Site
line in
improvement
our
line.
budget.
All right, and notwithstanding, there are additional investments being made into that property for mechanical work, et cetera, that is being funded through the town's budget, capital budget.
Talking about the science wing,
Yes,
that's all, on the town side, that's funded through
through
the bond
bonds,
issue.
the capital.
$750,000.
Okay, good.
Questions?
Yes.
Okay, just going to the summary sheets. I have a couple of questions for you. One dealing with insurance, which seems to be dramatically higher at this point in the year than last year, by about 14%. Secondly, site improvements, which at, 20-some-odd% of the year, we're up to 79%.
That's due to the science wing.
That's the science bit, okay.
And the summer projects, the projects that we did over the summer that
Good,
came
you're
out of.
dispensing with these questions so quickly, let me add a third.
Go ahead.
They can get it before you even ask it.
Get it before, yeah, come on, get it before I ask it. The insurance is still the one on the table, and then I had a question regarding special ed buses, which are lower, that's good news, but is that just a matter of timing?
That is definitely a matter of timing.
There you go, that's as fast as I could get it out. How about insurance?
And then the insurance is just timing,
All right, so we're on track
yes.
with all of them, okay.
I have a question about the tuition. I just kind of got an oddball figure. It came out to about $470,000. Is that for semi-annual tuition, or what time period is that?
It varies. If you look at the warrants themselves, some say, like there was one for $130,000, that was for the, 2 of them. That was for the year. Others are for the month. So
So what would it be roughly annually?
our entire tuition budget?
Yes.
They appropriated
Yeah.
$2.4 million
Yeah.
plus the excess cost grant, which is usually in the neighborhood of several hundred thousand,
At least, yeah.
right?
And
Closer to $1 million.
how many kids would be involved in receiving this tuition?
There are currently 26 outplay students, and it fluctuates.
So about 100,000 per student.
Probably more.
Yeah, we have some that are much higher than that. We have one that's over 300,000, and we have some that are a lot less.
How would you, is there a way that you could somehow, economies of scale, and reduce some of that?
No, the way outplacements are determined is through an IEP process and a PPT, and they're very individualized. It is contingent on what is in the best educational interest of that child. If it turns out that one or two or more are going to the same facility, then we can capitalize on some economy of scale in terms of busing to that place, but not in terms of tuition.
As I understand it, there are limited market opportunities. There are not a lot of choices for some of these children, some of these students. It's not like you can shop around for better deals.
Totally depends on what are the needs of that particular child. Yes,
Ken.
sir.
Question about, on the warrants, apropos of the same issue, on the erase program. I know a little something about the erase
What
program.
page are we on?
But this would be, excuse me, gentlemen, page 7 of the warrants, about 6, 7 items down. It's all administered through Branford, I know that, through Branford Schools. And I wondered whether this was a fixed sum or whether it varied. And the way you responded to Peter's question, perhaps you could respond to the question of, we have $91,000 appropriated, and it says 15-16 adult ed. Does that mean 15 to 16 students?
No, the year. The year.
It's for the year
It's-
15 to
yeah,
16?
yes.
And is that a fixed rate?
Yes. They
And
both.
that fixed rate involves how many students in Guilford that take advantage?
It's not contingent
special needs.
on the number of students.
It's not special needs,
It's
I know
not
that.
special ed,
These
no.
can be 18 to 21-year-olds.
And there are some students who are expelled from the Guilford school system who then attend the race because we still have an obligation to educate them. So there's that, there's adult ed, and there are the students post-high school.
So this $91,000 figure, is that an annual figure?
Yes.
Yes.
And that's
That's our
our share of the
contribution.
cost. Right.
Well, our share of it was $84,000. The rest of those funds is a pass-through of state funds that came to us.
I see.
That we are giving, we have to
I see.
turn over to Branford as well.
Thank you.
Others, Lou?
Yes. Linda, on page 11 of the warrants, not particularly large numbers, but it strikes me as a little odd the way the Magna Clean bills are listed. Like $39.54 twice for GHS as opposed to one big bill for GHS, and same with all the other schools, $34 twice for Adams. What is that?
That's splitting a large invoice out amongst each of the schools for a delivery, and I'm not sure exactly what these invoices included, but it's just the way it was allocated out between the schools.
Well, the two for Guilford High School looked like it would be different invoice dates, so it was, two separate orders.
It is with all of them.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
you have
they're
two
all
different invoice numbers, right?
And virtually the same.
Same thing.
It's like your weekly cleaner coming through, housekeeper or whatever coming through and doing the cleaning. But to Lou's point, and one of my questions, which I'll bring up later, is there a way that we can see, presumably this is some sort of contract that we have with Magna Clean, I presume. Can we see what the annual contract is? There are a number of these types of things in these pages, and when I look through them, it's not, for me anyway, terribly helpful to see things like this. I'd rather see what our contract amount is, and then how we break it down between the various entities, and then we can keep a running tally. So ideally, I'd love to see this in some sort of on a chip. You know, I'd like to see it in an Excel file or however it's kept, and I can, you know, massage this myself and share it with these guys, but I'd like to be able to go through for any one of these things, and you can put it in a pivot table format, and then you can determine where we are during the course of the year relative to what we've allocated for each of these things, as opposed to just seeing 3954, because to me that's, you know, I'll remember the 3954, but it doesn't really give me much information. Is that something we can do?
It's something I can look into, trying to do something like that.
Let's see what's worth. Let's talk with Jason and see what's involved in doing that. The difficult part is, I'm not sure that at the start of every fiscal year, you say this is how many gallons of MagnaClean cleaning fluid we're going to get. It's sort of, it's a moving target.
Right, but it makes it actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because it actually makes it easier if you don't know what you have at the beginning of the year, and/or you don't have a contract with a specific vendor. You can then go to this table and just click on the individual name, and you'll see that we're feeding a lot of funds to one particular place. And you can do it by address or by name. You can have it any which way, by vendor number, however we're set up. And so you will always know whether we're favoring one particular vendor. We'll know whether we're getting a good rate, whether we're getting a bulk rate, whether there's competition. So
I think it might, if I would, you have an opportunity to sit and talk to Linda and Sheila about the purchasing processes, so that you get a little closer understanding of why we purchase from certain folks. There are certain state contracts that we buy off of because they're approved vendors. Now, a lot of these items obviously fall well below the threshold, the $7,500 bid threshold, but that's why we use those contracts. So can I suggest that you sit and talk to both? And then any information that's easier for us to manage and manipulate and understand would be helpful. So let's start that way.
For most of these, we do have blanket purchase orders that we do for the year.
Right.
And then we draw down on those throughout the year.
Yeah.
So we know how much we're spending. It's just, it's not reflected on that report.
So something like supplies, I see them use the word supplies a lot of, obviously land and lumber is land and lumber. But you know, you've got supplies. Supplies is used as sort of a generic term everywhere. It's without any granularity to it.
Yeah, I've asked that we start using a little bit more of a descriptive item description in there. Some of it comes from a default that comes through from our purchase orders, so we have to override it and change it, but we're working on trying to put better descriptions in there, so
right. Because
it's not as generic.
You know, for example, right here on the same page, I see BMS autism supplies, and rather than go through and pick at each, you know, when you have 50 pages of this stuff to look at, rather than go through and pick at each one, it's easier if you have more data to sort of, but we can work together to get it figured out.
Linda, would I be correct that the total appropriations for supplies, anything that would show up on the warrants as supplies, would be under the supplies and materials section of the budget? Which constitutes about $1.4 million worth of discretionary supply spending? Okay. All right. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, I'm sure Linda and Sheila would be happy to sit down and talk to you about what's involved. Other questions on the Board of Ed expenditures?
I have one. The Adams lobby lighting, is that in connection with the security upgrades there, or is that?
Page 13.
Page 13 of the warrants.
Yes, I believe that was, once they had done the project, they determined that they needed better lighting in that area, so that was.
So it wouldn't have been included in the original
It wasn't included
project?
in the original, but we picked it up in our budget
Okay.
to get the lighting that's necessary.
And that's presumably a one-time expense associated with that project? Okay.
This is something that Ken just mentioned, because you have Trans-Canada Power Marketing, you know, there's a whole bunch of invoices here. Comes out to about $50,000, but if you just, you know, nickel and dime is 5 here, 4 there. What is Trans-Canada Power Marketing anyway?
That's our electrical supply. Electricity.
Really?
We buy off of a consortium.
Oh, I see.
Belong to a consortium that.
Oh, I see.
Does exactly what you had suggested earlier with special ed. It's an initiative to try
Okay.
to find the lowest cost provider for electricity.
We actually went out to bid and worked out this contract with
Right, in
TransCanada,
conjunction with the town.
with the town.
Town,
Yes,
yeah.
we did it together.
Okay.
I should also point out, it's not in warrants, but I don't know if you all got the food services report that we went over.
I did not
last
see it.
time.
Did I miss it?
No,
It's made one
Which
of the meetings.
one of the meetings?
They don't get the
They
report.
don't get.
They don't get the report.
Well, the good news is that I know in the past we've discussed food services with you, and this month we have reduced the deficit by 50%.
Great.
And actually, two of the schools are showing positive results of cost versus sales.
And what do you attribute that to? Is it,
We have a new food services
director.
director who is really doing a great job.
okay,
The number of meals bought is up. Kids are liking it better, and yet it still meets our guidelines, federal and state, for nutrition. So
We,
the net result is positive.
we added breakfast in all the elementary schools. We've added they're now doing breakfast at the high school. They're going to be starting breakfast in the middle schools as well.
and you're
So-
getting a pretty good take rate on the breakfast
Slow, but it's building.
building? Okay,
Melissa Jones is first opening its salad bar this month.
And yes,
good, good.
I have a couple of questions.
Let me jump on one here. Linda, I was looking at the Operations Committee meeting minutes of October 13th, and you had passed out some documentation on special education, out-of-placement tuition and transportation projections, noting that the current projection is 2.17858. Is that a net number, does that include transportation, as it says here, and the tuition?
Yeah.
Is that
net of excess cost.
Net of excess cost?
Yes.
Okay. So we had originally budgeted 2.4 million. That means don't tell me, we're actually
Don't go.
thinking
Don't
along those lines?
don't say it, don't say it, don't say it.
Apropos of
Don't
that,
jinx us.
All right.
on that same point,
Yes, go ahead.
yeah, on that item 3, on the October 13th meeting of your Operations Committee, I noticed that, this is all to the good, I noticed that Mrs. Brown is holding back on hiring paras until she sees the need develop, and apparently they're transitioning children back into the regular program. So the trend, it's probably minor, but it seems to be downward,
Yes.
at least
We're down
these 3-4
4.
months into the year.
Down 4.
Yeah.
Again, that's driven by the PPT process about whether a paraprofessional is needed for an individual child.
Just to follow up on that point Ken made, that the opportunity to hold off on hiring paras, I believe has allowed us to shift some funds, because we did not experience the drop in enrollments that we had projected. We had projected an enrollment drop of something like 70 students, I think. And based on your other meeting minutes, the full board meeting on October 13th, the total net loss is only 11 students. And we had actually downsized a couple of sections. We had let some teachers go. I think we were told last month or the month before that we had to hire additional
brought back-
teachers.
We
Hire
brought
one, then
Two.
back.
One of them back.
Two.
Two of them.
Two
back.
Two of them
kindergarten
back.
teachers.
And some of that cost is being potentially offset by withholding the hire, holding off on hiring additional paras.
Yes.
One additional point, on page 4 of your Operations Committee, at the very end, having been pleased that costs are under control, or possibly in some decline, there is now a concern that the new high school may require another full-time custodian. And that's troubling, because originally when the school was planned, we were told that the current staff at the high school, custodial support staff, would be sufficient.
I think there was always an identified need for another custodian. The Board of Education eliminated from the superintendent's budget request last year one of those positions. They were looking for 2 new custodians last year.
At the high school.
At the high school, and they dropped it to 1. But the rationale had been more space, more difficult areas to clean, and they had ostensibly been running pretty tightly in the old high school. So I'm sure we'll be having some discussions about that at the December
Absolutely.
subcommittee
Next budget.
meeting.
Yes.
Right.
And the question is, if you hire another custodian, what does he do in the summertime? I mean, there's no staff and they're very limited.
They do some other projects during,
Do you lay him off?
no.
I mean, in other words,
There's always plenty for them to do. They do a number of things. They'll do some painting, they'll do some, I know they take everything out of the classroom and strip it all down and clean it, and
But there's a lot they do.
there's a lot to do.
But it's a 40-hour per week work week.
I don't think they work 40, I think they work 30. It's a full-time position.
And we have a variety of positions in the custodian. Some of them are 28-hour positions, some of them are 35, I believe.
Do they get full benefits? I mean, it's 28, 35, they get full benefits as well?
35 would. 28, I'm not sure, is that by contract, I think.
I think it's anything,
Anything, it used to be anything over 20 hours, right?
20
25 hours.
25, yeah.
Others? Mike?
Let's see, I think we're still in the Operations Committee meeting minutes of October 13th. Item number 4, there was some talk about, the second sentence, it said, Linda, you were going to check on why the Comcast bill was higher at Guilford Lakes than the other schools. Did you find any insight to that?
Yeah, I did. We signed a contract with Comcast in February. All the other schools were put onto this new rate at that time, and this one wasn't. And I finally got somebody who said, oh, yeah, this is wrong. So instead of I don't think they're going to give us a credit back to February, but they're going to honor the 2-year agreement starting in November out for 2 years. So that bill has been lowered as of November.
Okay, good. And then on the Operations Committee, October 28th, this was the public input on the budget tonight. And safe to say 85–90% of the questions were about art at the, yes, art music at the elementary schools. It may be a little bit premature, but there was talk about full-time music and art teachers. Is there any idea what the number might be as far as full-time staff being added and any additional costs, or is that something, again, I know it might be premature, but just wondering if there's been any.
Well, let me address that. The Board of Ed had a preliminary meeting with the superintendent and the district leadership team discussing possible proposals without dollar figures attached. And we discussed, this was brought up as one proposal without any cost figures. We then held the open forum for the community, and I forget how many, 6, 8 parents and teachers came to push for that proposal. Subsequently, they sent all the members of the Board of Ed a plethora of references about the effectiveness of full-time art and music instruction. We as a board have yet to address this. We will talk with the Board of Finance next month, and after that, we will have a sit-down meeting with the superintendent going over all the details. But that's a very good question, Mike. I know that we have differing opinions amongst ourselves about this proposal, but we're all open to listen and learn.
Interesting that One of the items, actually, is a statement by Dr. Freeman in that October 26th workshop. Item 3 is like a preview of coming attractions. He says that the budget process introduces a series of drivers for 2016-17, including student enrollment, start times, the International Baccalaureate, full-year dean assignments, math professional development structures, and arts expansion at the elementary schools and capital bonding. So it's a preview of what we're
We'll be
likely to
discussing.
hear in December, you know.
So the art and music teachers would require 4 additional staff with starting level teacher is about $45,000 with benefits, you're looking at 65. So you're looking at $260,000 to add 4 teachers, roughly.
And how much increased instructional time would that involve, and what gets cut out when you?
That's
That's the key question. You know, there's a finite number of minutes in the day. We have effectively for kindergarten doubled the number of minutes for this academic year versus last year. For the rest of the elementary schools, it's the same. And there's a finite number of days, 180. So if we increase instruction in one area, regardless of what the area is, we have to get it out of somewhere. And that is in educational priorities that the Board of Ed will have to debate and discuss.
And haven't you wrestled in recent years with the perceived lack of playtime, recess time as well?
Yes, well, that was more in the middle school.
Middle schools?
There is recess in the elementary school.
Any other questions of the board? Linda, Dr. Meyer? Thank you very much for your time. And is there a motion to accept the report of expenditures to the Board of Education for October 2015?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Recusals? None. Thank you. Item 6, review and approve the report of expenditures for town government for October 2015. Good evening, Sheila. What would you like to bring to our attention?
Okay, you're going to guess?
Revenues?
We have to come up with
Say-
something.
No. This stick is getting a little old.
I know.
We all are.
No, I need new material.
But don't- That might be,
That's a budget item.
okay, just a minute.
Take your time, please.
Might not have revenue. We might not be able to start with revenue this time.
I see what's at the top of your pile. You wanted to talk about very good news,
Yeah,
but
we could talk about medical first. Would you like to do that or no?
sure, let's do it. Let's come on, let's really live
I
wildly.
actually have updated reports for you because when these reports were prepared, we didn't have, I'm going to take one and pass it down. We didn't have the Anthem data on the catastrophic claims.
I thought so.
So-
My little items there.
That's pretty important to our administration
Yes, it's-
costs. So if we start with that, actually, we've now reached where one claim actually has exceeded the stop loss. So it's the $49,000 that has been covered by the stop loss.
Okay.
So I put in the little calculation that I did at the end of last year that shows the amount that's covered, and then the cost of the premium, which is the $880,178. So we still have a negative savings, but it's early in the year. There's only 2 claims, though, that are, one that's reached the stop loss and exceeded it, one that's reaching the stop loss, and one that is deceased. So,
It's the nature of insurance.
yes, and it's good. That's
It
good.
is,
That's good.
it is. And Ken, just for your benefit, was it 2 years ago, we dropped the stop loss number from what was $150 or $175 to $75,000 after analysis by the insurance consultant, the finance office, the Board of Selectmen. and the Board of Education in terms of discussing that. And
I think that it's 150.
it was 150 was the old number?
150 is the new number. 75 is 50% of the new number.
New number, there you go.
That's what we look at.
Wait, the new number is 150?
Right.
Yeah.
You want to see the older one?
Oh, it was in the 200s.
Yeah, 2.25,
And what
2.25.
was the change? 225?
225.
What did the premium go down by, or go
Up by,
It went up by, well, this was 2 years, this was in fiscal 14. So in fiscal 15, the premium was, it's on here, it was 800 and,
yeah, but what was the differential between the 225 and the
Yeah.
150?
it was about 400,000, I think, or 500,000.
Give you a little background. But the good news is, the experience in October leads us to a projection of a pretty significant surplus in that account. Now, as we've all been aware, we're one or two unfortunate health incidents away from, with our employees from that number spiking back up.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of things that we're going to explore, and I'd like to use our consultant at Milliman for this, because we paid him for this kind of consulting. There's a couple of things. First of all, we projected 615 contracts when we
Right.
put the renewal together, and now it's down to 603. So there's less contracts.
Right.
There's also the HSA plan that is saving us money, and we need to quantify that a little better. And additionally, last year, the page, I just can visualize it for the catastrophic claims. There was a whole page of claims that were reaching that 75,000, or actually had exceeded the 75, and now we only have the 3. So even though those claims weren't necessarily covered by the stop loss, many
Right.
of them, they were still high.
Right.
We don't have that this year.
Okay. Excellent. One thing I did want to note, and I think you just addressed it, if you look under the fiscal year 15-16 revenue category, the contributions from the town and Board of Ed, the anticipated contributions are now $13,880,000 versus the budgeted amount of $14,633, and that was as a result of the adjustments in terms of the number of contracts. Is that correct?
It's really the HSA adjustments,
HSA adjustment?
yes.
Okay.
Because the Board of Ed has their own separate contribution amount that they make that kind of compensates for that reduction. We're gonna take a look at that again and see where we are, because their contribution may change again if required.
If required. Good. Good. Lou?
Matt?
Sheila, just on the language of the form, and this is very helpful, and it's obviously good news this month, but the first column, which we're all concentrating on, it's identified as claims. I'm assuming that, and every time I've ever read this, I've assumed that those are actual payments made after the billing has come in and been adjusted by our TPA, and we make the ultimate reduced payment. We're not,
No.
the word claims is a little bit odd to me now that I look at this.
Well,
I mean, claims is what the provider's claiming,
they're paid claims.
paid claims. Okay, so this is what we've actually paid. These are the hard numbers that we
We-
paid out the door for
Yes.
these amounts.
And we paid our claims every day. They debit our account daily.
Okay,
Anthem.
okay,
That makes sense.
yes. Yep.
And they're net of all the discounts that we receive. Yes.
That's my point. This is the final number that the outflow from our account.
Yes.
Paid claims, okay. All right, right now we're projecting for this fiscal year a surplus of $641,000 added to the fund balance at June 30th of $673, puts us over $1.3 million.
Yes.
Very comfortable range.
Yes.
All right, and that's net of the INBR,
That is good.
IBNR, I'm sorry.
That's a good report.
Good. Well, it's always nice to start with good news.
So I can probably do revenue. If I can share with Ken, I can pretty much do it.
I'll give you mine.
No, I think I can use mine.
No, mine as well.
Share. So at the end of October, we've collected 57.4% of our revenue budget as compared to 54.1% at the end of last year, driven by tax collections. And I actually asked the tax collector to run a report for me so I can make sure that our numbers were the same, and it looks like they are. I'm thinking that it's driven by the tax appeals from last year, where there were many appeals that were still open, so the taxpayers were not necessarily required to pay the 100%. And so once they settled or they were adjusted, then they were, they were paid or adjusted. So, but that was later on in the year, most likely. And now we don't have that this year. There's only, 5 or 6 that are still open.
I'm sorry. Excuse me.
So ambulance revenue is also strong because if you
Yes.
remember, they're supposed to be at
month
25%. They're behind a month. And they are, a month ahead basically because they're at 33% instead of the 25. And that's really due to increase in call volume.
Is the volume?
Yes. And you can see that corresponding expense on the salary side on replacement, but it's really not a big, I think they're at 40%, which
They
is
are at
really not that
40%. I
bad.
saw that earlier. I was going to ask that very same question. All right.
You've got,
Revenue? Yeah.
on revenue, yeah. You've got the tax collection up by about 3.5% over last year.
She was just talking about
Yeah,
that.
that was good.
Yeah, it's, I think it's accurate, and we're going to keep an eye on it. It's early in the year, so if we have to make an adjustment, we can. But at this point, our general ledger is agreeing with the tax collector's report.
I'm sure this dramatic drop in police revenues because the Guilford Commons has been constructed and so forth, but is it that much of a drop? Or are we not anticipating more police revenue than that?
That's really just for the cars that are used on a road job when they also
There's no
rent
other
the cars.
project out there.
It fluctuates. You don't really. It's hard to judge. One other thing I want to bring to your attention is on the state side. The state revenue is down slightly from last year, 31.4 versus 33.4, and that's really due to I think it's due to the $40,000 that we
So they're
budgeted for the
withholding.
state and colleges pilots
Pilot money. yeah.
that the governor has now taken back that we won't receive. So
Is that part of the 36 pages of cuts that just came out 2 days ago, or is that prior to these cuts that just came
that
out
was
2 days ago?
September's package.
So that's prior, that's
Yes.
prior. Because yesterday, you all know that got it here, if you'd like a copy. We're probably going to get hit some more.
Well, it's interesting. That was the governor's second proposal. The Democratic leadership came out with their proposal today. And as you can well imagine, since they were the ones that were crowing about changing the taxes and financing for municipal government, was a cornerstone of their legislation or their budget last year. So I think there's going to be a fight between the governor and the Democratic leadership about municipal aid. That's one of the key
Yeah.
areas
No,
of contention.
This was pretty, and it's not as far as Republicans wanted it to go.
Here's the good news. We don't get a lot of money from the state. So when we take a rescission of 5%, which is the most we can take in any one of these categories, right? And I believe the governor has 5% rescission capacity. The legislature can do something other than that. But, when you talk about 5%.
5% of our overall budget.
Of our overall
Yeah, a little
budget.
more than that, but yeah.
$3
right,
million,
right.
so.
As long as Looney and Starkey are up in Hartford, we're going to be hurting.
What?
Well, because of the fact the way they are, they basically want to tax us for other services, so to speak. I mean, that's their forte. Looney is from New Haven,
Yeah.
and Starkey is from Hampton.
Well,
And they're the ones that felt that General Electric was bluffing when they said they're going to leave.
I would agree with you in terms of their idea of redistributive tax policy. I think progressive Democrats typically are in favor of redistributive tax policy. What I will disagree with you, and there's a piece I mentioned earlier, that in the last budget go-around, Sharkey and Looney were extremely proud of the program they put together to protect municipal funding and increase municipal funding. And we stood to benefit from that budget last year. So in that point, I disagree with you, but I would agree with you on the point of that they are firmly in the camp of redistributive tax policy.
I'd like to see those numbers, by the way.
Okay, I'd be happy to get them to you.
Thank you.
Anything else on revenue?
No, I think
Is that about do it? Well, I had,
Do you have any questions? I'd be happy to answer them if I can.
I did have a question. On town clerk revenues, conveyance taxes are way up. Are we seeing real estate volumes, an uptick in real estate transactions? Because conveyance taxes are directly related to real estate activity, correct?
Yes, yep. And I can get you those numbers easily.
Right.
Sometimes it's a one large sale.
Could be.
We had that with the retirement, the assisted living facility.
Facility, that's
I
true.
can't think of it. It was a $15 million sale, I believe.
Was that recent? Or
That was
a couple
in
years
fiscal
ago?
15.
Right, yeah.
So I can get that for you, and it is interesting to,
Yeah, I'd be curious to see that.
I think the supply is pretty heavy and has
That's
been,
right.
and I don't think there's a lot turning over, so if the number's up, I'm guessing that it's due to one or two.
Two large ones.
sales. yeah.
that's what we've seen, in the past, but
It would be interesting to see the numbers up. Thank you. Anything else on revenue? Expenditures?
expenditures.
Anyone?
You have that?
Yes, sir. Okay, we've obligated 45.6% of our expenditure budget at the end of October this year, better than we were last year at 46.2%. And there's really nothing here that's unusual. And there's a couple of small little timing issues, like insurance. We have 3 payments in at this point. They're really all timing issues. There's nothing unusual. Even the departments that are over, debt service is a great example. I mean, it's over last year, but at the end of the day, it'll be 100%.
Right.
Capital, the same. Really, the department's public works, for example, 48.7, better than last year at 55.1.
But yet, winter expenditures are over in, either expended or encumbered is almost 100%. about
Right, and they were
96%.
last year as well.
As well, right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So let's just hope that it stays, very, no fluctuations, and we'll be in a good position at the end of the year.
The one item I had identified, I wanted to talk to you about was the replacement salaries, but you've talked that replacement salaries is in large, for the fire departments, in large measure, what it's correlated to the increase in ambulance calls and call-outs for that.
Now, it is, and I did look at that. Now, that replacement is not all due to the call-ins.
Right.
It could be due to someone who's being replaced because they're on workers' comp.
That was my next question. I know we had one workers' comp case. Are we still carrying that?
I believe so,
Yeah.
because we are still getting, Yeah.
Workers' comp?
so that individual is being replaced.
Placed, okay. That's what I thought.
But at the same time, there is a credit in the workers' comp line
I
that
saw
really
that.
nets out.
Nets out
will net out,
16,000, right.
So that helps the replacement where we're over by the 40%.
Right. Okay. Other questions on expenditures at this point? Warrants? Or warrants? Lou? You're welcome.
Sheila, on page 3 of the general fund warrants, page 3 and page 8, actually, there's a series of notations for replacement payroll checks. I think I'm reading that correctly. On page 3, there's 1 second from the bottom, and then on page 8, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4 separate ones.
Page 2 as well.
Page 2 as well.
There was a bunch on page 2.
This is a project that we do every, and not even every couple of years.
The
every-
concept of having to replace a payroll check is awesome.
It is quite
Let alone-
amazing, the number of people that did not cash their checks for a year. So, you carry them as outstanding checks, and many of them, as you see, are small. And really, we need to clear that out, and rather than just, give the the money to the state, which is what you're supposed to do. We give them one more chance. So we wrote them all letters, and the ones that responded, we cut them a new check, which is the right thing to do. Some of them were very happy.
Okay, well, it sounds like good accounting, cleaning up the books.
It was a little bit of a
Like cash
project,
checks.
but it was really the right thing to do to clean up the outstanding checks.
Wow. On page 5, there are 2 items, actually, same general fund warrants. We have a almost $2,000 insurance policy with Kerma for underground storage tank. First of all, where is that? Which one? Or is it multiple ones?
I think that may be related to one of the schools, but I'm not sure.
And what are we,
I know that's
what are we
come
getting? $2,000 of insurance
It's-
coverage
there-
against the
this-
leak? They're going to pay what? Under what circumstances?
I would like to, I'll get you more information on it, because
I
I
would
know this
really
was
be
an
interested to
issue
know.
about a year ago, where it was a controversial issue, and I don't remember all the details, but I'll get that for you.
No,
What page is that on?
Okay, that'd be great, thanks.
Page 5.
Sheila, on the same set of warrants, page 18, third one down, the allocation for probate court, I'm assuming that's our share of the operational expenses for probate court,
Yes.
but it's made out to the Madison ambulance, town of Madison ambulance? Wrong code?
I assume that would not be correct, but I'm sure that it was corrected.
Okay.
I'll check with Darlene on that.
Yeah, thank you. Town of Madison
It does say total town of Madison, they,
ambulance, but just threw me.
One on page 20,
Same warrants?
same warrants, down the bottom. Clam seeds?
$20,000 in claims.
clam seeds is, they are what the Shellfish Commission buys to seed the beds.
To stock the beds.
So the fishermen or clammers can go clamming. That's every year.
Baby clams.
Love it.
This isn't for our commercial clammers.
No.
Sheila, on the general fund weekly checks, and Joe, you probably can pipe in here, and this may be as much for your benefit, the employee benefits, the withdrawal agreement for the New England Teamsters. How long a time did we amortize that payment? Was it, how many years?
20 years.
I thought it was 20 years, right? And Ken, this is just, if you look down on the general fund weekly checks, so on the cover of the large warrants, if you come
I got
down,
it, yeah.
okay? New England Teamsters.
Yep.
The employee benefits, the pension contribution is obvious. The withdrawal agreement was the agreement we made to end the current contract that we have, that was, the pension used to be with the town of Guilford.
Right.
So that is a payment, as Joe just said, it's over a 20-year period. Anybody else? Ken?
I don't have the page, but I have it on the summary sheet on general fund. $2,100 youth and family for production?
Right, I wanted to just point out, there's a few checks on this general fund list, maybe a handful or less. And this being one of them, and the seed clams are another one that are actually special fund checks, so it's unusual that they're here. The check that you're referring to is for a program at Youth and Family Services that they put on that's paid out of their DEMIS money, grant money, not general funds. So
I see.
it's a
It's a
production
grant.
Should be
company.
over towards special fund.
It should be. But it was in the essence of maybe there was only one check to be cut that week, so Darlene just combined it on one
On one.
warrant, and it's here for you to see. It's just not on a separate piece of paper. It's charged to the right place.
And could you give us some background on, speaking of special fund, some background on the $6,250 payment for drug-free grant, DFC program evaluator?
The drug-free grant is a federal grant that Youth and Family Services, Lynn Landry received, and they're administering, and there's programs that they put on, and there's certain requirements. So that would be a payment made, as part of that grant.
Part of the day,
Yeah.
part of the day program.
Yep.
It's a payment made to a psychologist or a psychiatrist or something.
Right.
A psychologist, I gather, yeah.
Right. Also on special fund weekly checks, I see that we have two payments for the kiosk. That's completed? I know it's up and working, and I've driven by a couple of times on the weekend. Yeah, exactly. I can see it right there. Here we go. Mike, can you throw the camera that way?
But it's closed.
It's closed for the winter.
But the interactive screen works all year.
It works all year long. That is terrific, and congratulations. And that was funded through a state grant?
That is state grant
Right.
given to the GPA,
Yeah.
which gifted the whole project to the town.
Wonderful.
But the funds ran through the town.
Through the town,
Sheila
yeah.
can explain.
Yeah,
the
well, we know
mechanics.
that. It's just a grant, but,
That's from DECD.
okay, economic development.
One question also on general fund weekly checks. There's a $10,000 check, and it's listed under heart and hypertension employee benefits. Is that $10,000 for one employee for 1 month, or?
No, it's a settlement. One full and final.
Okay, thank you.
I have one curiosity on the special fund. Usually, the vendors don't get by me too often, but on the Science Wing Fitness Center, there's $169,000 for MA&M. Is that an abbreviation? I'm just wondering what it's for and who it is.
I don't know.
It's-
I only know that.
I thought maybe it was my loan in the room or something, like some sort of an acronym, but they're listed here as one of them, so MA&M just seemed very,
Everybody in the trade.
I thought I knew all the vendors on these, but
Michael
that one,
Hales.
I'm out. I have no idea.
Stumped them, you got them.
Yeah, and I'm wondering what it's for. Is it mechanical, is it demo, is it, what's the service they provided? Because it just says Science Wing Fitness Center, I'm not sure what it's for.
Okay, I will find out and let you know.
Thank you.
Anything else? Golf course? Revenues are up by 4%, but expenses are also up by 12%, but I think some of that is explained in part-time salaries, about 5,000, less than 5,000. Course maintenance, I know we were repairing some more tees. And then also utilities were significantly higher. Water, I suspect? Water, yeah.
Some of the green fees, up 18%.
Yeah.
If, I don't know, if it's any consolation, how they, I think it was Shoreline Times where they rate different, restaurants and so forth. Of the 3-par golf courses, this was number 2 in the Shoreline.
Shoreline?
Yeah, so
Good for us.
it's a good course.
It is.
We just need some players.
Exactly. To that, go ahead. No, go ahead. You want to go back?
No, but cross-referencing an expense in one of the warrants, there's some $7,000 aside, which I think all was for the golf course, right? So is that, are those warrants, that cost, is that in addition to figures that are appearing on our golf course report? In other words, the town's just spending the money for the capital improvements?
That was part of the capital projects for the 3 Ts.
Right, okay. So
That
that's,
is in addition to your golf course report.
and the tees happen to look fantastic. So, I mean, I get it. It's not lost on me how expensive sod is, but I just wanted to get a sense of,
To Peter's point, it needs people to start using it.
right.
But
And
that-
frankly,
Need them in
they've,
spring.
by improving those tees, you made some of the holes potentially longer. I mean, there's a couple things that they did that I think that's money well spent, but my point, to be fair about this, is it is in addition to the information we're looking at on this report.
Right, and that's taxpayer dollars versus user fees.
There's two golf course projects under the general fund capital
Okay,
that are completely separate from the
Okay.
golf course report.
great.
And we still have not gone out for alternative management. I know Joe's working
No, the
on
golf
that.
course commission is coming before the Board of Selectmen in December to present their RFPs to the selectmen.
Building permits, any comment? No?
Good.
Yeah? 11,
It's moving up,
it is.
averaging about, we're averaging,
Anything further, Sheila?
No, that's all I have.
That's it?
Yes.
Anybody else? No? All right, is there a motion to approve the report of expenditures for town government for October 2015?
yes?
And a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions, recusals? None? Good. Thank you, Sheila.
I actually did not tell the truth. I have capital reports
Thank you,
for Ken. They're nothing normal, but they are, they're pretty close to what you're looking for in the essence of, because tomorrow, actually, I think you were all invited to
Right.
our capital budget presentation to the Board of Selectmen, so I've been working on that, but these you can have. They're munis reports that are
You're
for
a
the two
woman of your
funds.
word.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
Thank you.
That's 1:30 in the afternoon.
Is it 1:30?
Joe, what order are they going to be presented in?
I don't have it in front of me, I can tell you.
The big department's coming first.
Whole presentation, should be 2.5 hours, no more.
Excellent. Thank you for this, Sheila.
Tracy, you have a schedule, do you have?
Yeah, 1:30 is going to be tough for me to get back into town. All right, item 7, consider and take possible action on the Board of Finance meeting calendar for 2016. I know that everybody got a copy of this at some point today via email.
Right.
We traditionally check to make sure there are not any religious holidays. Obviously, once we observe some of the traditional holidays like Martin Luther King Day and President's Day, so it moves from the third Monday occasionally, but is there anyone who has any issues with any of those dates?
No, I
Didn't
move the
think so.
acceptance of the calendar.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of the calendar for next year?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, recusals, none. All right. That's it. All right, committee reports. Guilford High School Building Committee. Mike, anything further from?
A couple of things, it's probably just more follow-up from last month. If you've gone by recently, you'll notice that the bus loop is looking pretty complete.
Yep.
I was told that the binder coat, which was actually talked about at the last meeting,
Yep.
was actually put down last week. They are tracking to an early December opening of the bus loop, so they're on schedule with that. You might have noticed in the notes, and just, I'm bringing this to the board's attention for just transparency, because
notice
you may see it.
Yep.
The auxiliary gym, there was some lifting in the floor in the wood. What's been decided is there's going to be a warranty extension on that floor, and they're going to, the vendor has asked that we let it sit for a season to allow the floor to settle. It needs to do some movement.
Okay.
So rather than go right in there, it was, let's get it through one whole season
Right.
and monitor it. But the warranty's been extended, so there won't be any cost to us if it does have to be replaced, but they are monitoring that.
Did they use the same materials and the same methodologies for laying that floor as they did in the main gym?
I believe they did, but
And
there's
there are no
always-
problems?
No,
Okay.
no, not at this time.
Right.
The only other thing to bring up was, and maybe Mr. Federici would like to talk about this too, but there was a performance, a major performance at the auditorium this weekend,
First one.
Arcadia. And it was a professional performance, and everyone I've talked to, including the chairman of the building committee, said the performance was unbelievable.
Professional grade.
Professional grade performance.
By
This
our
was not-
students.
Yes,
Right.
yes. I guess it was a mix of performers, I believe, or regardless of that fact, it was a fantastic performance, and it was the first major performance in the gym, in the auditorium. So it went very, very well.
And it was produced by our students? Or
Yeah,
the stagehand?
It was
Yeah,
produced by
all
Miss Mulqueen, who was the
Mulqueen.
theater.
Okay.
And there was the technical staff, all the students were introduced. It was really
Okay.
nice.
Excellent.
Very difficult play, quite a challenge for them, for those kids who were first.
And that's the report.
That's the
I
report?
had one question about that handrail. That did not meet code.
Yes.
Is that going to cost the town anything, or is that under warranty?
Yes, it probably will. It is my understanding that that particular handrail was not meeting code according to the AHJ, which is the authority having jurisdiction. So in other words, there was an interpretation that that rail did not meet code by our town, but the architect and the contractor put it in based on what they felt the interpretation was. When that happens, it goes to the owner. I don't know what the cost of that change is going to be, but it was according to our town, it was a code violation that they picked up, and that's the way they interpret it.
Do we have
The
a-
town automatically, that's just the way the contracts are written. Yep, so.
Do we have a number on how much of the new high school has been paid for? I see that one of the special fund items was $1.5 million.
$1.5
To Fusco.
Is it in the capital projects report?
Yeah, I actually don't know where, I don't want to even, I know there's a few million outstanding just based on the amount of work that's either in retainage or that's left, because remember, there is still quite a bit of demo, field work, site work that needs to be done. But I don't know what the percentage is.
I'll get that number for next month. We're all stuck together.
Following up on Ken's question, did they discover any more significant issues other than the floor of the old cafeteria, which had asbestos containment issues?
No, not to my knowledge.
there-
Not since the last meeting.
Is
no.
there any sense, of how much contingency is going to be left over?
No.
He's trying to-
However, I have talked to the chairman as recently as today, and there are reports that are outstanding from the construction manager at this point, which the building committee, based on the lack of information that they currently have, can't necessarily tell how much contingency they have left. Now, don't get too nervous by me saying that, because there is plenty of contingency, but the question is things like the turf field. How much is going to be used out of contingency that may remove that turf field from the project? Again, that's something that's a recent observation, that the reports are not up to date. And that's something that's between the building committee and construction manager team. Yeah.
Anything else? Any other questions? All right, 8.2, discuss and take possible action on budget subcommittee assignments. I'm wondering whether this has become passé, since most people attend both sessions. Ken just, you probably heard me go on about this a couple of weeks ago. We typically have subcommittee assignments for budget development stuff, Board of Education, Board of Selectmen. As has happened, pretty much everybody attends all of those. So does it make sense to have primary or secondary designation on these? Does it? Probably not? Okay.
I plan to attend it.
Attend both, so yes, I think everyone does, so. That's the way it plays out. That's it. And then I'll continue to work with Sheila on the revenue side of the equation as well, so, as we get closer to it. Just for edification, right, you heard, the first meeting with the Board of Education will be prior to our December meeting. It will be here. It's usually downstairs in one of the rooms downstairs. And I think it's 6 o'clock? Right.
6, I think 6.
Yeah, 6 o'clock, so, all right. Item 9, old business. Item 10, new business.
I
Ken?
just want to make a couple of comments. I'm sure everybody watching is aware of it. It's sort of new to me. We sit here, and correct me if I make a mistake here, but we sit and we look at these warrant reports, which are rather lengthy, and we question monies, which is good. And I believe part of our role, an important part of the role. With regard to the Board of Ed, though, we really don't have any authority at all, is my understanding. We get one shot per year, which is coming up now, to try to have some influence on what the overall budget number is. And once that number is set, where that money gets spent and how it gets used, we can't question why they hired an extra custodian as opposed to a soccer coach or something totally fungible. On the town side, that's not so much the case, which means that if we were interested in lowering taxes or stemming the rise in taxes, given that the education budget is a large component of the overall budget, our only chance to do that is through some next dialogue with the various committees in the next month or two. You all see the budget cuts that are going on at the state level. I'm personally, we have the third worst funded pension plan in the country at the state level at 50%. The teachers is a little higher at 59%. But the cuts that are being proposed, even if they don't all stick, it's clear that monies for, I mean, if you go through it, the services that are cut are all of the social services, it's the museums and the libraries and the mental health care, some schooling, environmental places. So if you look at Guilford, so ultimately I am concerned that this will come to eventually trickle down to us, meaning we will get fewer state handouts than we've grown accustomed to getting. And on top of that, if you look at Guilford itself, 40% of the population in Guilford, the households in Guilford, make less than $100,000 a year. Another 40% fall within the 100 to 200,000. So 20% make over 200. Those are the only people that are able to accrue any wealth in this town. And we talked about the housing stock here, and I'm telling you that the people in the 100,000 on down are struggling in town, and those are primarily the homes you see for sale in town. But I think it's incumbent on us to protect those people, and it's not just those people, it is the wealthy. There are plenty of people that are complaining about their taxes out on the waterfront that are paying $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 a year in taxes, and some can afford to, but many are feeling the pinch. It's, I don't care who you are, but you're writing a check for $100,000 every year. It's, you ask yourself why. So I think it's important that stepping into this, we try, and I've been to some meetings, and frankly, I'm a little surprised by some of the numbers that are already coming at us in terms of special bonding issues that are going to be coming up in the, that we're going to see. And I think we're going to have to work really hard to try to figure out a way to stem it. And it's not the sort of thing where you can go through and take 1,000 here and 2,000 there. I understand a lot of it is contractual in nature, but I think we've got the union contracts coming up next summer. I think we have to try to figure out how we're going to pay for the services we've grown to expect and like. And at the same token, I think we can't just buy everything we want when we want it. Because I do think there are enough people in town that are concerned. So.
I think.
And I'm not saying you disagree with any of that.
No, I'm not. And I'm not.
I agree. You absolutely.
Yeah, I think everyone appears, at least I'm going to represent myself, going into every budget season, the idea of raising taxes is one you'd like to curtail. But once you get further into the details and where we have discretionary dollars, and my discretionary dollars may be different than Jeff's, and they may be different from Mike's. But you raise a very good point. There are certain services that this community has come to expect from us, and traditionally those have a price tag. The trick for us is to balance exactly what is the value of that, who can afford it. And I think you heard me say this earlier, and I agree with you 100%. While we can't govern for the bottom 10% of the income scale, nor can we govern just for the top 10%, we have to do what's best for the you pick it, 60 to
Right.
80% range. So I appreciate your comments, and I think everyone here tries to strive to minimize the impact on our taxpayers. And by the way, this is the thing I always forget to tell people. We pay taxes too.
Oh, yeah, we do.
So when we propose tax increases, it hits our pockets as well. But anyway. Anybody else under new business?
No, thanks.
Public forum? Don't all come up at once? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Well said.